Hello everyone, welcome to our channel Abhis Projects, and in this video we'll be starting our Flask series, which is Flask from the Scratch series. In this video series we'll be covering all the important concepts in Flask, and we'll also learning some of the important concepts by doing the hands-on. Okay, so in this video, basically, we'll be talking about some of the basic things about Flask, about its working, how it works, what is the architecture of Flask, and then in the subsequent videos, we'll be actually doing the hands-on by installing the Flask and creating the first Hello World app. So let's start today's video. Flask is a very lightweight framework for building micro web applications with the Python backend. And that is the big advantage of this because first it is very lightweight, and because it is uh, uh, built in Python, so a lot of functionalities you can implement using Flask framework in a web application. And that's why it is ideal choice for building machine learning AI based web applications, because Python is the language which you use generally in building machine learning models. So it was first created by an Austrian open source programmer named Armin Renach in 2004. But actually, they don't know that over the years it will gain so much popularity in the open source community, and because of this, it gained a lot of popularity in the open source community and gained massive following also. There are a couple of reasons, and that's why we'll also cover this question, like why Flask is a microwave framework, why we called it as microwave framework. So first, it is that I told you it is a very lightweight. Like if we compare directly with other frameworks like Java, .NET, and uh, Django, which is also a Python backend framework. So one thing which is important to note is, like when we install Java or .NET, it requires huge dependencies and installation of particular softwares as a dependency we have to do, and a lot of package building happens when we install when we work on these type of frameworks. But Flask is, that's why, very lightweight, because you have to just install it using pip install Flask, and every package and everything will be installed within that once we install using pip install. So we don't have to install any other dependency with the Flask. Second thing, it requires only essential components for building web applications, like very basic things like routing. We require routing if we want to build a web application. Then there is request handling, like HTTP GET requests, POST requests, which are very basic things when we build any web application. And important is the session handling. Okay. And the best part, we can also connect our Flask web applications with the database. That is a very important feature of Flask that I'll tell you in the next subsequent slides, some of the important features of Flask. So now we'll cover features of Flask. So as I told you, Flask provides an internal development server and a debugger for building web application. That is the biggest advantage of Flask. As we know, any web framework requires an internal development server and debugger. Because like Java and .NET, they are very comprehensive frameworks, so they require a specific server to run in the backend. But because that I told you, you don't have to install anything specific or as a dependency for Flask. Once you install using pip install Flask, even this internal web server or development server will be available. Once we run the Flask app, it will automatically start the server at a particular port, and you have to just visit the local host with a particular port, and your website will be live, or you can test it in the local host. So there are many servers which supports Flask. Like there is a very popular server, that is Unicorn. You can use Unicorn for optimization of your web app and all. There are a lot of functionalities are there. So once we deploy our Flask app on any cloud framework like Heroku or Azure, Google Cloud, AWS, then it's preferred to use a particular server like Unicorn, and there are a lot of others. Second thing, it also provides debugger. So once you develop your Flask app and once you want to test it on your local host, so if you obviously when we develop any app, we do some mistakes with some bug we have to remove. So this is also very friendly in terms of debugging. So once you do any mistake, it will give you proper error. What's the issue actually, that you can trace back and you can correct it. That is the another very important advantage of Flask. Second thing is it works on WSGI standard, which is Web Server Gateway Interface. So it means your Flask server or Flask app will not be directly exposed to the client or the internet. It requires a gateway interface which will talk to the web server. That I'll explain you in subsequent slides. Second thing, which is very important, is the Jinja tool. So because it supports web templating system in order to build dynamic web pages connected to the database. So for any web application, it is incomplete if you don't provide some dynamism in it. And we know that if we want to make any web page dynamic, we have to connect our web application with the proper database. So that's why Flask is also a feature that you can connect your any database, whether it is MySQL, SQLite, or uh, Postgres, any database you can connect it. And this is only possible because it uses Jinja 2 templating system, which provides web templating system. And that's why it is also sometimes known as MVT, which is Model View Template Framework, because it works on templating system. Another very important use of Flask is you can also build REST APIs with the use of Flask, which is also very important. And it is also ideal choice for building lightweight, very small to medium web applications, because it is very good for building lightweight web applications with database connectivity. So let's say if you want to showcase your any small project or machine learning web applitions with certain inputs and all. So you can build a small end-to-end application in Flask and you can showcase it to your clients. That is the big advantage of using Flask. So now we'll come to working of Flask. What is the architecture of Flask? So as you know, it also follows client server architecture, but something also happens in the backend. Like let's say you have created a web application which requires some input in the form of form, and that input will be entered by the client. So client hits the server, web server, and they request or enters the particular input into the form, and then this web server will talk to the Flask server or Flask application, or you can say web application, a web template, using WSGI. It's a two-way communication between the Flask server and the web server. So this WSGI protects the Flask server web application directly exposing to the internet. So basically this web server is nothing but a server where you'll deploy your Flask app, and then that server will directly communicate to your internal Flask server. Okay. Now comes to the another important concept, that is Jinja 2. So that I told you that it follows a templating system. So any web application, if you want to make it a web page very dynamic, so you have to connect it with to the database, and that is possible using Jinja 2, using Jinja 2 functionality. It will using Jinja 2, we can easily connect our web page, which is nothing but any HTML page, with the database, and will helps in rendering dynamic web pages. The best part, also with Flask, whatever web application you'll be building, you can use any UI framework like HTML, you can use CSS, JavaScript, jQuery, anything, any advanced UI framework also you can use. Even you can also use React, okay? Uh, and in the backend, you can use Python using full Flask framework. So everything possible with Flask. In terms of UI, there is no limit. So that's why it is a very ideal choice for building a very lightweight, small web applications. But for building comprehensive or complex application with the Python backend, I recommend using Django framework. Hope I'll able to explain you the architecture and the usage of Flask. In the next video, we'll do the hands-on. We'll install the Flask framework and build a Flask first web app. Till then, have a good day. Bye.